The one piece of advice I give parents now is like, once you get past those first couple of years, like you need to make time to make friends again. Got to make more efforts to find that friendship and also how to reach out and step up and make time for yourself and how healthy that is, especially when you're a new parent. You're constantly consumed with making sure this little person doesn't die.
It always seems like they're trying to hurt themselves almost, isn't it? They're climbing things, bumping into things, eating things.
Always being like, "Hey, let me fall from here," and like, "No, don't touch that, don't eat that."
Today on We Can Solve This, I talk with Joe Gidjunis, the creator of Grown Up Dad, a TV show about modern fatherhood. It's out now on PBS. We talk about our shared experiences being dads ourselves, and also a little bit about how we can use shows and media like this to have an impact. Joe Gidjunis is a good friend of mine. He actually hired me to help him with several different projects, including Grown Up Dad. So I guess that's a bit of a disclaimer. He hired me to do the graphics on the show. So a lot of graphics you see, a lot of data viz, that was done here at NODEHAUS. Fatherhood, I gotta say, is one of the most rewarding and life-changing things in my life. There are very few things in my life that I could relate to other people in the world with, even people in my lineage, even people in my ancestry. And fatherhood, parenthood, is one of those things. It immediately gave me a sense of context in my life about where I am, what I'm doing, what's important in life. I really think more people should consider thinking of themselves as being a parent. It's a fantastic thing. So with that, on with the show. Joe, thank you for being on We Can Solve This. We Can Solve This. As I was saying a little bit earlier, We Can Solve This is like a project I wanted to finally launch because I've been involved in politics for such a long time. You know, back in high school, I got like into it. I was like, oh, I was going to learn everything about it. That was actually going to be my fallback if I didn't get into film school. I was going to go to University of Chicago for economics. I thought I'd become an economist.
Your
Sit
parents must
here
have
and
been thrilled when you said you're going into editing.
well, they were like totally against me moving that far away from Michigan, except I had the Trump card.
Chicago's so far away from Michigan.
No, New York. When I went to New York, they wanted me to go to Chicago because they're like, no, stay here. And I had the Trump card. I had a full tuition scholarship to New York. So I was like, they couldn't argue with me. I went, had a time. So, but no, I like now in the year 2025, you know, there's a lot going on, obviously, politically, socially, and I find myself in a position of wanting to have an impact in the world through media because that's what I'm passionate about. But then I also feel like, man, there's some level of struggles regarding like, here's a great example actually. And this is something I talk about in our little preview of the podcast. But it's I made a clean slate, right? My documentary about expungement, and it's about Milwaukee. It's about Wisconsin. I'm talking with some of the legislators about the project, and I'm like, all right, how can we use this documentary to push forward on this bill that's been stalled in the Senate? And they're like, unfortunately, at this point, at this stage, that bill is just one of many that is treated like a currency that's just traded around in terms of you vote for this, I'll vote for that. You co-sponsor this resolution, I'll do this, that, blah, blah, blah. And there's no sense of like, oh, a grassroots effort of, common Americans will rise up and change this needle necessarily at this point. It's just like this weird transactional thing at that point. It's like, okay, for me, I had to think like, I have to step back and think about the broader picture and think about my job as a bit more diverse than just moving pixels. My job involves a lot more and involves a broader campaign. Maybe it involves doing things at the right time, maybe thinking about live events more and thinking about how people can actually come around something rather than this being just something that lives on YouTube. So that's why I want to talk with people like yourself who are actually doing something about something you care about. You are the creator of Grown Up Dad. Tell me about Grown Up Dad. Tell us all about where this project came from. Why'd you make this in the first place? What's going on at Grown Up Dad?
That's like 7 questions that could take up the whole time frame. Grown Up Dad is the first documentary series looking at the challenges the parents face, and particularly from the dad's perspective. That's what's really new about this. So rarely do we want and ask for or think dad has a perspective about parenting, in particular really the past generations. The idea of what you could be as a dad has really changed. And what I decided I wanted to do is be different than the father that I had. And not that this show is at all about, him and our relationship. It's, he came from a very provider perspective. Um, and honestly, before that, that was really it. It was, you were a provider, a disciplinarian, or maybe both. There really wasn't a lot of caregiving aspects to fatherhood. And what I grew up with is the idea that fathers were drive-by parents, that they were not there for really the hard stuff. And my dad was, there'd be months where, he was on the road a lot and he worked, and there'd be a lot of months where I maybe saw him 3, 4 days a month, and so I didn't really understand what a father was and what it could be. And just the way that I saw him, that's not the relationship I wanted to have with my son. So I have an 8-year-old now, and every year just gets better and better. And so it's a message of, I never got like fatherhood would be something to desire. Fatherhood would be something to crave. Fatherhood and being a good dad and being someone who's there with your family can actually bring about more strength. I feel stronger. I feel more masculine the more I'm with my family and the more I'm there for my son. And it's just the antithesis of everything that I ever got growing up. And it's still, I think, the antithesis of what people receive today as that message. I think it's very typical. Like, you're going to become a dad, and the messages still are like, all the real world's going to hit you now, or, just make sure you're there to provide for them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not enough. And I don't think that's the type of dad that our generation want to be. So I'm an older millennial, and we are doing so much more than the generations before us. But this is the first time, I think, in history, at least in American society, that we've been able to start to ask what kind of dad we really want to be, and there are options. So that's why I wanted to create this show, because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what that meant, and I'm a former journalist, I guess now as a documentarian, an active journalist again, and it's like I wanted to find out, and I didn't have that role model in my life. And it's really interesting that you talk about the role of media, because that's actually how this got started.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you were like you were thinking about your role as a father, and I mean I love this part about the first episode. Just like it rang so true with me about how when you're about to have your first child, like everything's poured over the mother. There's so many books written, there's so many media things written. Everybody's talking and giving advice for the mother, and then when you as a dad, you're like, all right, I'm here if you need me. I'm let me know. I'll be here. Just I'm a phone call away. And it's like I want to get involved. You're absolutely right. Generationally, we are at a point where culturally, I'm now an older Gen Z, I suppose, and we're all there's so much more of a cultural shift for an active fatherhood, and yet we don't quite have the role models to exist ahead of us necessarily regarding like what does that look like, particularly for us now in 2025. Maybe you could find a few examples in history, but it's like, well, look, we need some people who are dealing with things that you're dealing with in this show, like technology, right? Like when do you let your kid use a touch screen? And for my wife and I, were like vehemently against touchscreens unless we need to be on like a plane or something like that. So I'm really glad you're tackling these issues. What did you learn through this show? What did you learn through this process?
This started because we were in the middle of COVID. That's actually very beginning of COVID. And also, I'm just feeling completely overwhelmed. My kid is 3. I don't know. I realize I really lost, I think, as a father. And trust me, you get that feeling the second your kid is born. You feel really lost. But it was hitting me more at that point that I'm like, I didn't want to be the kind of father that really had no idea still what to do, and just didn't ask the right questions. I didn't want to be um, someone who's just not curious about how to make his kid's life as best as possible. Like,
Hmm.
we all want our children to thrive. And so my role model growing up had actually been more television characters. I realized had been more people I would see on in media, because I didn't have that father presence around me. I didn't have another uncle who was really like in my orbit, who was, a fatherly figure. I'd have people who would serve that role, but they would go in and out of my life. And so I realized that media had become my primary directive for, like, how do you be a dad. And so when you begin, though, as you become a father and you realize, you look at those role models, the the Tim the Toolman Taylors, the Al Bundys of the world. You're like, these men are lovable and they are funny, but they are not competent. They're not who you want to be on a daily basis. They're designed to be laughable and to be the butt of the joke. There's nothing wrong with that in a TV sense. I understand why they were written that way, but when you're actually trying to be a competent dad, like you're like, I don't have that role model. And so my first idea was actually to my I before Grown Up Dad, I had a pilot I was trying to make called Do TV Dads Know Best?
Mm.
And this was evaluating, where did that bumbling dad trope come from? Where did, TV and society, why were fathers written a certain way? And actually, it totally failed after multiple interviews and essentially failing to get anyone interested in it. It had to be shelved. And then someone had told me, like, it's going to be much more interesting if you are the story. But I, like you, I am a behind the camera person. My entire life has been a photojournalist and a reporter, and I'm not an on-screen guy. I'm the director, and so the idea of being on screen was really uncomfortable for me. I had so many just personal insecurities. I'm like, no one's gonna want to see a show about me. No one is gonna watch this. And then I wrote it a little differently. I started being on camera, and multiple people were like, we're completely relatable. Everyone's going through the same stuff you are, and just talk about it with vulnerability and honesty. And so the first episode we made in 2023. Gosh, I'm losing track of time. Sorry, I started this, almost 5 years ago now. And so we made that pilot, which aired last summer, June 2024, and we did fantastic, enough so that PBS asked me to make more. Right. So the process was we made a trailer that we were actually trying to raise funding for, and then PBS ended up coming along, seeing it, and said, you should make this a show. And so we took that, and after the pilot, now we've made 4 new episodes. So our first season of 5 is out now, which is so exciting. It airs nationwide on Father's Day, and multiple stations will be playing the episodes throughout June and July.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm getting to see this thing that you've getting to see this thing that you've reared up and grow up and learn to walk like a TV show like this. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's almost like being a father.
It's just as expensive too. So,
Oh. It is condensed into 5 years. I've already sent this thing to college. It feels like I can imagine. One thing that came in the pilot that I always go back to that you've said is it feel when you have the child, you can't really prepare for it, but then suddenly it feels like a new chamber and your heart opens up, right? And that really is it. And it gives you so much larger of a sense of direction in life, I think. And for me, I deal with like social media videos, TikToks and whatnot. And I got the sense that like I am the first person in my entire lineage, going all the way back to Vietnam and everything else, thousands of years. I'm the first person that ever had to deal with like TikToks and worrying if TikToks will do well that I make, or making this little video for some YouTube channel, right? Like I'm the first one. And when I had a child, I felt like I could finally connect with my lineage, my family, my ancestry. I feel like I was partaking in something that so many other people have, and it gave me a sense of context of like what I'm doing, where I am in the world, and my sense of like purpose changed dramatically, right? Would you kind of agree with that? Did you feel the same, or how do you describe what you went through?
I just no one ever told me how much joy this would bring
Mm.
me as a dad. No one ever told me about how much I think that people will say like, hey, like you'll learn a lot from your kids, but it's like until you have one looking back and doing both good and bad things, like we're just like mimicking, or end up like acting out their best and worst traits too, that you're like, oh, those are my own best and worst traits too, right? You're like,
Yeah, I'm trying not to swear in front of my kid now, right? Like that's like, whoa, I've been doing this since I was like 13.
I know they're start and now my son's 8, and it's like a couple are slipping out a little bit more, because I'm like, I also know he hears him. Like it's a weird like thing. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
don't say that, but Don't watch that, but I might have one slip every so often too now. And you wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that when he was like even a year ago, but it's getting
Mhm.
worse. I got to work on that more. The just how much joy you get, and they don't tell you about that. And what's really important, I think, is that message, and to connect this back to something that I keep saying every time I make this show. Every time I'm able to broadcast something of a positive father, of parents doing great things, of the strength, and it's a different model for a really a strong and caring, emotionally relevant, emotionally aware dad. I am countering 75 years of bumbling dads. I am countering the narrative that dads don't matter or that we don't even want them to, that it's really always just been mom's job. So I love making the show because I get to counteract, I think, everything, all the negative stuff that I've been sent and been taught over my lifetime.
I feel like, and this is a little bit of a generalization, but like, motherhood, there's a sense of stability in that across generations, across cultures, like what that role is, and the role of the father has changed dramatically within every generation, even. But there is something unique about being a father. What is it that it is that we are? That like, what is our role? What is the central telos of our role? What is it that fundamentally we have that's unique to us that we can play in the lives of our children? Like, what is it that we bring to the table as fathers?
What's nice about that question is that it is so open ended, and that is just giving an open ended question like that is something that is totally new and different. But there is no simple answer, not just because a dad can be anything they want to be today, and any kind of dad they want to be today. But there's a piece of this like where fathers haven't ever been asked this question, and so this is where I think we're into an interesting time. So millennials definitely are doing doing a whole lot more as a whole. We are spending more time with our family. We are doing the diaper changes a lot more. We are taking the kids to school and participating in after school activities, and we are more involved than the previous generations. We're still not as involved as mom. We're still not even close. But as a whole, we are doing more. And I'm really proud of our generation for doing that. But what is it that we want to do? We've never been asked that. And that is also part of this show, too. It's being able to ask ourselves those questions and seeing what it is that's going to make us happy and make us strong, too. There's this piece that I remember researching early on in this where like people were saying like why should dads get involved with their kids lives, and like the benefits are out the door, like in terms of like kids are going to be healthier, they're going to be more competent, they're going to find more grit and resiliency, their grades are going to go up. Like there's just so many positives that have been recorded over so many studies over the last 30 years that in my show I don't even mention them, with detail, because it's just known now, like that's just a given that dads are involved with their kids come out with so many extra positives too. But I remember reading that, or sorry, hearing that's like a dad came up and was like, so I'm doing all this extra work and it's just for my kids. And at first I was taken aback, like, of course it's just for your kids. But then their argument was like, but is it just for my kids? And I then thought, I'm like, oh, we can't only be doing this just for our kids. And I was realizing my own needs, my own self awareness of like, actually, I feel more joy and fulfillment. I think the message that we continue to tell dads about, you know, going out with the buddies, going to the bar, going to play golf, these other activities, all these things are necessary for a well rounded self. But if you are not with your family too, if you're not realizing how much value you're getting out of that, I think you're missing a lot of joy and fulfillment in life. That has been the biggest thing that I found that was the game changer. It's like I feel, like I said, stronger. I feel happier when I'm with my family and giving a much more balanced life. And in our, I think, over marketing or our over marketed to world and vision where everything is consumable and advertised, it's not a message that's out there. And so I'm always trying to remind dads about that. And anytime someone's about to become a new parent, I just want to say, like, it's so hard, but it is hopefully going to be the best thing you ever do, and you're going to find more joy and fulfillment than you ever thought possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And are you seeing your show, or what you're talking about? Are you seeing yourself having an impact now in the lives of people you've talked to, or also just what is the moonshot goal of this series? What is the impact that you want?
Two very different questions. I'll say first, um, I wish I could sit with the entire audience all the time. Like I wish we could have like more focus groups and do screenings and whatnot. I'll just say from, even just watching with my friends who are parents and hearing from friends and like parents of my sons, like my son's friends, their parents, hearing them talk to me about it gives, like they're loving it and they're hearing it, and it's making them think about things they hadn't thought about. And it's because as a parent, I think we're often in a bubble. Okay. Like we're, as much as we have the entire knowledge of the world at our fingertips, when your kid is sick, or you don't know what to do in this situation, because every day is something new, and it's just like you don't know where to turn. Sometimes you don't know which friend to get help from. You don't know who's really the expert on things. And so my goal was always to be like, let's talk about this with people who know what the heck they're talking about and have experienced it and come out on the other side. And being able to give them that perspective, because look, our as a parent, we're exhausted too. We're working and we're trying to raise children. We're trying to put food on the table and make dinner and go to get bedtime done, and it's really hard. And the idea of like researching, am I doing this the right way, is just not something that we have time for or energy for most often. So it's like, all right, let's make this in a way. Let's make this show something that I would want to watch, something that people will get a lot of value from, and is not going to waste anyone's time. If I'm not entertained, if I'm ever getting bored, I'm like, we make changes in this show to be like, no, it needs to be faster. We need to like get to this point, because I don't want to lose parents. I want to value their time. So it's really important that we share this, and then parents are just coming to me and being like, "Ah, I didn't that's such a good idea," or I didn't think of that. And I love those moments. Like that is my purpose on this planet, is to help people become better versions of themselves with really interesting and useful information.
Absolutely. So have people reached out and just like talk to you about like the impact the show's had on them?
Yeah, I've gotten some emails. We see comments online, and it's just it. And honestly, just PBS has been a wonderful supporter, and I'm so thankful for that partnership. That they're like, yeah, let's keep making more. You're getting views, and people are enjoying it.
Absolutely. Okay. Um, Father's Day is coming up. I mean, I believe this episode will come out on Father's Day. What describe? I have a hard time answering the question of like, oh, what do you want for Father's Day, or what do you want to do on Father's Day? Partially, I'm like new to it. Obviously, my daughter is only turning 2 this month, but like, how do you answer that kind of question?
By the way, congratulations. That is great.
Thank you, thank you.
My wife just asked me what I wanted for Father's Day. She realized she literally, this is how she started the question, because she's like, I realized for Mother's Day you got me flowers. We went to brunch. Like you took care of this, that, and the other thing too. And I'm like, what do you want for Father's Day? And I'm like, well, of course. So my kid is 8 and into sports. We have a baseball tournament that weekend. Like, what do I want? I mean, I don't really have, and with travel sports, and I think I'm doing an episode in season 2 about travel sports and how crazy they are. Because like I don't have a schedule yet. It's less than it's just over a week away, and like we have no idea what our schedules are. So we can't plan anything anyway that day. So in a way, I was like, I talked to her. I'm like, you're off the hook. Like there's nothing I need that day because you can't plan anything anyway. But maybe we could plan another day when we don't have a baseball tournament that we have to work around completely to be there. I'm I'm a there's little things that we tell each other throughout the year that we want, we hint at. Um, so I think she's gonna pull something off that list for us for Father's Day. But really, I really do want to spend some time with them. But I also don't want to be a high exertion day. I want to relax.
That's stressful on us as parents. Like, oh, now we got to do something. Oh my goodness, I just wanted to sleep. Actually,
Is that what you? I mean, is that you can ask for sleep? Sleep's a
that's part of
perfectly
it.
good
That's
answer.
part of it.
Oh, I am notorious for staying up very late and waking up fairly early enough just because I can't sleep in. I just cannot. So there's no hope for me. Maybe it's going to bed early the day before, but other than that, just a nice breakfast.
Your sleep patterns just do change when you have kids. And that biologically you have to. Thank God.
Uh-huh.
Thank God. It'd be really messed up. Being like, oh, I want to get up at 8, and it's nope, they're 5:30. They can't be by themselves for 2.5 hours.
Going back to the show, what do you have a favorite episode, or do you have one that you feel just like I'm really glad I covered that topic? I mean, well, actually, give us a rundown of the episodes you have first, and then tell me what you like.
Look, so 5 episodes. The pilot is great. This is about the changing role of fatherhood, really just identifying like times have changed. And what's hard though is the workplace culture,
Mm.
because so many dads, they do want to be more present, but in the workplaces, our jobs, our employers, they're happy that we're dads. They're generally, that's looked upon as a happy trait, but we're not really given the conditions or flexibility to actually go and do that job. So the struggle for men to figure that out and balance that, is really a topic in episode 1. Episode 2 is about screen time limits. This was actually not the episode I was planning to do to start off the new season, but it came about because my son was really having a lot of issues with video games and transitioning. He was fine with TV to a point. He was fine with certain devices, but video games like really did a number on him, and none of our transition techniques that we'd used for everything else were working. So I was like, I need to figure this out to help him, or this is gonna get worse. Episode 3, we talk about reclaiming a healthy masculinity. This is an episode that I wrote prior to the 2024 election, actually. And then after the November election, I had to throw out that script because I made certain hopes and assumptions about what masculinity was becoming, and it didn't go that way for a majority of the country. So I had to understand, I think, my own personal relationship with masculinity, understand what it is I wanted. How do I understand and appreciate the word strength, and also balance that with a fatherhood that I wanted to resemble, I wanted to act upon. So that's episode 3. Episode 4 is also about friendship and loneliness, my own struggles. I think a lot of our own struggles as parents, especially when you're a new parent, you're constantly consumed with making sure this little person doesn't die.
It always seems like they're trying to hurt themselves, almost, isn't it? They're climbing things, bumping into things, eating things.
Always being like, "Hey, let me fall from here," and like, "No, don't touch that, don't eat that." Um, it is a lot, and so we need to. It's one of the if the one piece of advice I give parents now is like, once you get past those first couple of years, like you need to make time to make friends again, and see them, and particularly for men who struggle to do that because the way we've made friends has been generally in a workplace or a club or an activity. And more and more, we've lost religion. We have lost community groups. We have lost that sense, and COVID exacerbated that. So right now, it really got to make more efforts to find that friendship, and also how to reach out and step up for yourself and make time for yourself, and how healthy that is. Because part of it too for me was like I was feeling guilty for not being with my family or not working. But I was not making time for me because I was feeling guilty. And so that struggle that I think a lot of dads deal with. And then the final episode is on digital manipulation and media literacy, because the world that we are living in and understanding how are what we are understanding, what we are getting fed for information, I think is as important as the limits that we put ourselves on these devices. And so episode 2 really talks about how much time we should be on these devices, and what some helpful things are to help our kids, and like when we should be getting cell phones and when we shouldn't. But episode 5 is the realization, like we're all going to have them. How do we understand truth, and why? What can we do as parents to build a better detector for that truth? Also understand what is false, and how do we navigate this world when information and AI is just coming for us every second.
Mm, mm, mm. So is there an episode that sticks out as like, wow, I'm really proud I tackled that, or like, we accomplished this, or and you also got to travel for some of these episodes, so that's also part of the fun. But yeah, yeah. What sticks out?
While I'm based in Philadelphia, we go all over. We're in LA this year. We're in St. Louis, other parts of the Northeast. We're in Chicago. Um, we're that part's fun because I like really hearing different perspectives and like culturally, regionally, parenting has different meanings for everybody. So I love doing that part. A favorite episode I can't give you, and I'm not trying to like dodge the question. It's like if you come up to me and you say there's something you're dealing with, like that's my favorite episode I'm going to tell you about. Like, so as someone who seeks truth and understands media, I would tell you episode 5, and really understanding, the struggles that we're all, facing with what's being, sent to us on our devices all the time. I think it's really eye-opening. I learned a lot, and I love hearing different perspectives from both experts and teenagers that I interview in this episode. Um, but for again, if I'm just bumping into another guy and talking about fatherhood, I'm going to tell him about episode 4. I'm going to tell him about, hey, go make a friend, and make sure you give yourself time, and also make sure your wife or your partner gets the same time to make friends too. And it's really healthy to show your kids that it's necessary to go out with friends and not just be at home too. And it's kind of figuring out that balance between, hey, I want to be home, I want to be strong, I want to be feel fulfilled, I want to be present and engaged, but also I love you and I'll see you in 4 hours. Like that's okay too. And how do we do that?
Gotcha. All right, all right. No, no, it's totally a fair answer. I mean, you know, it's such a personal piece of work that so it's like it's hard to like say one is over the other, but uh, I'll let you have that one.
Thank you.
How about a little bit of a lightning round here? Let's do some get to know you questions.
You didn't tell me about a lightning round. Oh man. All right, here we go.
A book that you read over the course of producing the series that left an indelible mark on you.
Well, I think every parent should read Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It's been changing the entire narrative on cell phones in the country, and it really sparked the change in schools. I actually was going to do an episode more on cell phones in schools, and then his book took off, and we didn't need it anymore. Like that book has made such an institutional change around the country that I'm so happy it has too, that everyone was starting to see the dangers of cell phones in school. So that's the book.
Absolutely. No, I love Jonathan Haidt. I mean, I read Righteous Mind, back in college, and he was also a professor at NYU at the time that I was there, so I got to
Oh,
meet
really?
him. So
Oh,
he's really
okay,
cool.
cool.
I mean, that was before he was into Ancient Generation. He was still on the Heterodox Academy work that he was doing, but yeah, yeah, fantastic guy. Um, have you read Selfish Reasons to Have More Kids by Brian Kaplan?
No.
That is a book you should read. Selfish reasons to have more kids, because he takes a very unique perspective, which is he literally describes like this is a book about why you should have kids. This isn't about the social benefits or why your kids will be happier. It's about why you will be happier and why it's actually, and also why it's not as hard to be a parent in the sense that like we may be over anxious about as a generation. Like, oh, if we have kids, we have to do X, Y, Z, a million different things, going to cost so much money. And he pulls out data stuff like of the people who have kids, like almost none of them ever say they regret having the kid. Things among that. So it's a very good book for me. It was very joyful.
Please send that to me because we're looking at season 2 topics right now. We're in pre-production, and one of them is on the declining birth rate
Hmm.
around the world, except for basically India, and a couple of other countries, like particularly United States. And really interesting. I would love to take a look at that.
So I'll send it over. And that you're talking about in the loneliness episode. Have you read Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone?
I've read parts of that. I've not finished that book though. That's interesting. Why'd you bring that up? Just curious.
I mean, you talking about like this declining social capital, our sense that we are alone, and that this is a generational thing that's been going on since the '60s. That we're no longer like, and it's things like just having people over for dinner parties is something that is measured in the book. And it's like people have fewer dinners where friends come over and people visit people less, and all those things contribute in my mind because right now, my wife and I, we have our daughter, and we're looking around in our generation. Very few people around us have kids, or if they are, they're a lot older than us, and so like we're not really generally like you and I, like we're a generation apart. You're about my brother's age, and so it's like it's we're distant enough for like we wouldn't invite them over necessarily, unfortunately. Maybe if you lived here, maybe if I lived here, we would. But like it's just like there's a generation divide, and it's tougher for us to then have another kid because we're thinking like, who would she play with, and all those things.
Well, okay. Two things though with that. One, we all need role models. We all need mentors, and so and at two, you can go out to eat. You can find plenty of restaurants. Like I think you should please go out, ask some of those older friends, like, hey, you want to grab dinner? Because I'm sure they would love to as well. I think we're all
Right, you're right.
go out even more, and I think we've lost some of that ability to think about that. We've always tried to have some older parents or family members in our lives as even our own mentors. Sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't, but regardless, it's really important that you have those family, those parent friends too. And then as soon as school hits, you will not have trouble with preschool, whatever. You will not have trouble
You're
with
right.
finding friends.
You're
Like
right.
just it explodes, and then get one activity going, and boom, you're set for so many people in your orbit now. You'll be fine soon. I know it's hard still at two. I know it's hard.
I haven't even thought about the school yet. I was like, oh, part of it is that Nicole and I, we are thinking of homeschooling or something. Although with elementary school, they normally do a very good job of at least getting literacy and numeracy, so it's not that too worried. I'm more like junior high and high school. I kind of think schools start failing their job of educating you in a lot of ways, or you have the chance if you're really good at school, like if you are the kind of person who's just good at school, then you're fine. But there's a chance you might not be good at the kind of brick and mortar school environment, and that's what I'm worried about. And I'm open to homeschooling at that point. But how do you what goes into school? Like you're already at that point. What should I be thinking about, or am I over anxious about it? Am I over worrying?
So I'm in Philadelphia proper, and I school inner city schools, whatever city you're in, you've got two different you've got a different dilemma, I think, than a suburban school district or like what I grew up with. Because basically, what I grew up with, like, here's your elementary school. There's no choice. Like, here's your middle school. Here's your high school. Um, Now, locally in Philadelphia, there's your local elementary school. There's generally though a couple of options that you can choose between. And then middle and high school, you can go all over. I mean, my son could be going 45 minutes away to school for middle or high school, depending on either a speciality if he gets accepted, or to what they call a magnet high school here in Philadelphia. There's some fantastic schools in Philly, and there are some terrible schools, unfortunately. So the dilemma of the city parent and schools is different than the suburban or rural one. And my wife grew up in a more rural community, suburban rural, but she had a great school system, absolutely terrific. But a town over wasn't so great, and still isn't that fantastic today. I'll just say I understand your predicament, as the parent predicament. How are you going to get your kid to thrive? And I was thinking about private school at some point, and then my in-laws and my wife convinced me. It's like, look, elementary school, they are going to. I mean, as long as it's even an average school, they're going to be great, because it's not you teach them more in the home, no matter what. Even at not, I mean, like, they go to the public school, you're still going to teach them more at home generally than they are really going to teach during the day, but they're teaching so many social skills. They're teaching so much about what it's like to be in the world as well. But how you get them to read at home, how you get them to enjoy school, how you get them to enjoy learning is primarily what you're trying to do in these early years.
Man, we totally detracted from a lightning round myself. Sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry. I forgot
No,
you.
that's
You gotta,
actually, yeah.
you gotta like put a timer up and tell me you got 20 seconds or something. So,
You did a bracket for best TV dads. Which one won? And also, like, what is your favorite TV dad?
my inspiration for fatherhood is from the show Bluey. I mean, really, this is how it all started. Bluey came out. were basically in the beginning of the pandemic on Disney Plus, and it was just amazing timing because it's the kind of person I needed. And so the father in this show is Bandit. And it's a crazy that my ideal father, the one I look up to and try to think about what would he do, it's this animated cartoon dog from Australia. It's like um, that's the best one that I have out there. And so he did win the bracket. I swear it was not rigged. But I'm sure enough people who liked
Mm,
my show also liked Bandit, so that was
sure.
convenient. But there haven't been a ton of great dads on TV, which we've talked about a little bit. But one that did well, that I made sure to put in the bracket and gave a good ranking to, Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel Air really was a solid father to obviously to Will Smith, but to Carlton and to, I'm forgetting the sisters' names, just both of their sisters' names, but was a real good dad there. So we try to really just put up good dads, and then we put in some funny ones too. You got to put in like The Godfather and Darth Vader
Mm,
and some of the other ones have been in media. Um, we probably will do another bracket, I think, next year because that was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Um,
How about
a
you?
kid.
I was thinking Bob Belcher. I think the experiences that Bob Belcher goes through are realistic in a sense. Like there are a lot of pressures. They don't make a lot of money from the restaurant. There's a lot of pressure, but he's still trying to be as present and active as a dad as he can be. And I really like Bob's Burgers for sure.
That's a good
Yeah.
choice. Good choice.
Um, a kids movie or show that your kid loves that you've learned to love, or that yeah, you'll accept it. You love that just as much.
Well, yeah, like Bluey doesn't count, so I think we gotta. I mean, because that's just it's
That's everything.
it's the best show. And okay, so a show that I've learned to love.
Yeah, yeah. Like your kid just picks it on Disney Plus all the time, and like you've learned to love it. Like for me, I think it's Encanto. I didn't love it when I watched it myself, before Violet, but Violet puts it on a bunch. I'm like, okay, I like Encanto now. Yeah.
That's a tough one because okay, so like once they get into YouTube, all right,
Mm,
there's so much garbage that's just like you don't know what it is, and they're just watching to watch. And honestly, we were like that. I mean, I was like that. I would just put on whatever cartoon there was. God, if you watch like so many of these shows we had growing up, they did not age well. Um, but I think about some of the stuff he puts online. I'm like, what is this? And honestly, I have to tell him now. My challenge is more like, hey, I need you to pick a show with a plot. Okay, like
mm,
you see character development rather than just some like YouTube personality trying to do some stupid thing that has I don't understand what the heck why we're watching this thing.
Absolute 21st century critical issue that we face out of nowhere.
It is. So I think what we watch, I mean, pretty much there's the three channels I think we watch as a family a lot on YouTube. We watch a lot of Dude Perfect.
mm.
It's a more family based show, but like we love sports, all three of us do. So Dude Perfect has been great.
Hey, congratulations on the Super Bowl, I gotta say.
Thank you. Clearly I had a lot to do with that. No, hey, that was big. Um, Go Birds, right? It's so fun. Such a good night.
Fly, Eagle, fly.
Thank you. So, Mark Rober, he's an engineer,
Mm,
former NASA engineer, got a fantastic show about engineering, and he makes it so fun for everyone to understand. Um, and then just we're a huge baseball family, so there's this channel called Baseball Doesn't Exist, and it's so well researched and interesting. Like he'll make a 25-minute episode go by like that. Like that's honestly something I'm trying to do for grown up dad because I'm like, there's so much interesting content and stats that he puts in that we love it. So those are the things that we watch together as a family. And he definitely turned us on to the last one, Baseball Doesn't Exist. So that's been a
mm.
fun one.
Nice, nice. An activity that you do with your son that you just love doing.
Oh, baseball. I mean, we are obsessed. I coach his regular season team, and then I'm an assistant coach on his travel team. But I mean, having a catch with your kid is just the best thing in the whole world. So fun. It's great when he can finally catch and throw it back to you. It's it's such a joy.
something our daughter since birth like tried standing up, like always wanted to be vertical, loves jumping. We think she's gonna be in gymnastics probably.
Great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see where that goes. But yeah.
So can just encourage that and encourage something, and this isn't all something only dads can do. I'll just say typically dads are the ones that can encourage more adventurous play and a little more adventurous roughhouse within a safe environment.
That's definitely our house dynamic. Nicole hates it when I'm throwing her upside down and stuff like that. She's like, I can't even look. But no, I love it.
I'm the one who throws Gabe in the air and grabs him and everything. Like, yeah, I have 7 years. This will be 8 this coming year. Um, of photos of me throwing Gabe up in the air at the beach every summer. And but now he's 8, almost 9. He's 75 pounds, and I'm like, I almost hurt my back last year. This might be the last year I can do. We're gonna see. We're gonna see, because like throwing 75 pounds up in the air and catching it safely without him kicking you or kneeing you in the face is hard. But it's the tradition. So until he can throw me up in the air, then that's
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Abbott Elementary. Have you watched Abbott Elementary?
of course. God, it's so okay. That show is surprisingly accurate to what it's like to being in the Philadelphia school system. It really is.
I love it. It's a fun show. But what do you love about Abbott Elementary? What's so great about it?
Oh, I mean, it highlights everything that's great also about Philly too. So many Philadelphia stars, so many Philadelphia shout outs, everything from local news heroes to our athletes and our actors. But it's it honestly does feel very like accurate. Makes you feel seen and makes you just laugh at like how crazy it is to try to teach and try to learn in today's environment. But and they just show people absolutely in loving their job and helping people. So I really love that. And then actually Miss Chimenti on the show. I met her recently at an event, and she is looks like that, talks like that. It's phenomenal. And we were talking about Philly, and we were talking about food and people sending her stuff, and just the every time they're here, how great they're treated. Like, they sing our praises too, and it's wonderful. They're good people. Yeah.
If I totally flip the table and say, what about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Do you watch that show?
Of course, but I feel like I see it more now in like shorts or on my YouTube like feed. I just like go through my Instagram feed. I'm just like, I feel like I've seen every episode now just by that, even though I haven't actually put on an episode in years. But I just feel like it's just always in my feed. It's funny. I don't know. Just yesterday, I remember the scene where they're like, "Isn't it crazy that Pittsburgh is also in Pennsylvania or something? Why are there 2 cities in Pennsylvania?" And it's like, wait, that's not weird. That's normal. No, you're not getting it. We're in Philadelphia. Yeah. And then there's this whole other city.
So good, dude.
So good.
Philly food. What do you like about what's good in Philly? Obviously, there's cheesesteaks, but everybody says cheesesteaks. What if I were to go to Philly? What food would I get?
We are more than cheesesteaks, but you got to have a good one when you're here, at least a half one. Um, but soft pretzels, like this is not Auntie Anne soft pretzels. These are not super pretzels. A Philly soft pretzel can just make you so happy and enjoy life. Our bread here is phenomenal. Our rolls, everything, it's just really great. But our food scene though is also upscale. We're now going to be getting Michelin star rankings because our food scene has just been so elevated over the last few years. And Michelin's now coming to Philly to our restaurants. And you can get anything here, and some of the best chefs and best restaurants in the world are here. So it's wonderful. Not that I'm able to go to them anymore, but
It's nice to take pride in it.
we're on a budget here, people. Okay, but we've been to a few, and it's nice. It's a special treat. But yeah, food in the city is phenomenal. Really.
Any specific restaurant that you say, hey, go there?
I'm well. Okay, I did being in video and photo production. I did a story once a couple years ago on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. and it got best restaurant of the year here. So I have a shout out but the chef is and the bartender they're so nice, they're so genuine. It's not this stuffy hoity-toity thing. They're really down to earth, great people. So yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, shout out.
Gotta go, gotta go. Okay, okay. Um, the last question, the last topic I want to talk about, just to return to the show, is what's the strategy for getting the show out there and getting it seen? What's the plan? What do you want to do?
It's your podcast, baby. You got to get it out there to the whole world. Okay, this is it. Um, the strategy is really tapping into just people who there's so much crap television on, and this is enjoyable, and you get to learn, and also feel seen as a parent. So I'm trying to make sure that I tap into that we find people who really care about being, who enjoy learning and who enjoy having fun, and find joy in being part of a family. Just changing the narrative on the bumbling dad trope, and really going into our audience is actually at this point still more women than men, which I always find interesting. I mean, it's partly because that's the demographics of PBS and some television in general. Um, but I think a lot of moms, like, even though the show is called Grown Up Dad, it is really about parenting. It's just my perspective and our the information we're gathering. Um, it's just about that. And so it's open for everyone, and we're so happy that moms, women say, "Hey, I think you'd like this, Dad," and they come into and they watch, and that's where we get such great feedback and comments. So the idea is to not only do that, but we are having an event, our first Grown Up Dad event on the 14th, so the day before Father's Day. We're having the Dad Cathlon. This is an event where we put fun, challenging, normal parenting, roles that we need to do as a parent, and we put dads to the test. So things like, how many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches can you make in 2 minutes, crusts off? Okay. We have the Lego walk. How far can you walk across bare Legos in 60 seconds? That's a challenge that is particular for every parent, because we've all stepped on Legos and been like, "Oh my God, that's the worst pain in the world." We have things like inconvenient stain. So you're at a fast food restaurant, your kid spills something on their shirt, and you only are armed with whatever is in the fast food bathroom, basically, which is like toilet paper and foaming soap. How do you get the stain out in time? We have a little obstacle course. Don't spill the juice. Things like this to just both that are fun and challenging, and highlight, honestly, the important skills that dads really bring to their families. It's like, when you're a good dad and you're trying to solve things, and you're not just delegating to mom or just ignoring it so mom does it. When you are active and present, these are the important, fun things that we bring to the table too, and we want to celebrate that for dads.
That reminds me. I mean, this is kind of part of this impact framework that I've been kind of developing mentally, which is that, like, you need physical events, particularly. We here in the media field, like, we're making videos and then we post them online, and that's great. But I feel like the real telling sign of impact, the real, like, and actually the space for real impact to happen has got to be a bit more in the physical realm, in the sense that you have events, people start to mingle, people start to meet. Bring it back to Robert Putnam, just like, people need to come to events and network and become more friends with other people that you've never met before, and build social, entrepreneurship.
Oh, 100%. And this just goes back to two. It goes back to friendship and loneliness. Like, you've got to get out there, and it's hard when you've got a kid that's so young. So, like, I don't want you to feel like you're failing here. You're not. Okay, it's so hard when you've got a young kid. But I stress, talk to your wife, make sure you're each making time to go do that and be in the physical realm, because you're going to be a better parent and a better person when you make a little bit time there. And just remember, come back and just love every second you're with your family. It does. I know the biggest trope is it goes by so fast. It does. The days are long, the years are short. I can't believe I'm about to have a 9-year-old. It's crazy.
All these lines that we say like that, like yeah, the days are long, years are short. Like you can say that. I don't even think it gets close to what it feels. That's exactly how it is, bro.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you for being on this. Where can we catch Grown Up Dad?
Well, hold on. First, you have not talked about your role. You have not talked about making my amazing graphics in this show. You have not talked about how you have helped transform my data, my important research component, into this visually interesting thing in 5 episodes yet.
All right. I'll talk about that a little bit. It was fun. It was fun.
I'm
great.
so happy that you agreed to be a part of this and help me make something so visually compelling. So many people have told me your graphics are fantastic. Thank you.
You didn't tell me that someone told you.
Stop it. Oh my God. I tell you all the time. Yes, you do. Seriously.
It was great. I mean, I love data. I love, again, going back to my economics kind of real, I love these kind of things where, we can actually quantify some social changes and social shifts and, Anxious Generation, fantastic book, the actual dangers of letting your kid be at a casino basically every day, right? Like all these concepts. I just love doing the graphics. I enjoyed the graphics, and also a shout out to my team that's also helped me with the graphics as well on this too. I don't know, the whole company kind of gets involved in some of the projects. So some of the graphics were done by me, some of them were drafted by me, but then ultimately actually carried through by the rest of the team. So
I didn't know that. Well, I'm really glad for you and your team because they make me look better and smarter, and we're able to really translate things for people to understand in a very simple, easy to understand way. So thank you for everything you do.
I thank you for having us on it. So where can we see Grown Up Dad? Where will I be able to watch it?
So right now, as soon as you publish this, you can go to YouTube, look up Grown Up Dad, and all 5 of our episodes are live. They're there. We've got great clips and shorts, and we are putting out new content all the time. And you understand this from the documentary world. I have probably sat down with 50 people, and I have over 75 hours of content, and I've only been able to release 2.5 hours. So we've got so many long, good interviews, so much important, fun stuff that I just can't get into a half-hour show. So we're putting out new stuff all the time. But you really also PBS. All right. So Father's Day, the PBS World Channel is airing all the episodes in a block on Father's Day. It's so cool. They're giving me a 2.5-hour block to air all 5 episodes, depending on where you are in the country. So East Coast starts at 5 o'clock, 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and then it goes across the rest of the country, respective time frame. And then PBS stations around the country, they all air things different times. So look up on your own the PBS station for your schedule.
In terms of the best thing that can happen for you, is it the view counts on YouTube that would be best, or should my view counts be on a PBS website? Would that actually help you more?
Both. Just watch twice. That's great.
Put them on all your streaming devices out at the same time, and
I think I'm okay. No BS. I do not know the answer to that. I'm gonna say YouTube though for the moment. I'm gonna say YouTube. My view counts on there and subscribing there really make a difference. So go to YouTube.
Okay.
Great. And go to grownup.dad. Find out more about everything, and that's also a way to get behind the scenes and understand everything that we've done with these episodes. We have show guides and toolkits also with each episode. This is to continue the conversation and make sure that you are asking yourselves, your friends, and your own kids the right questions about each episode to help continue that dialogue. And we are working on our first white paper about everything that we've done this year and submitting for additional research and funding to continue what we're doing here, because this is only the beginning.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to season 2 when that comes out, or I guess I'll be helping you out.
We hope so. Yeah, you'll know before they will.
All right.
Thank you so much. It was so good seeing you. Thank you for having me.